They said, "You'll give half of it to your sister, or you can leave this house." I just stood there, holding the lottery ticket worth $620,000, and realized in that moment, my parents never loved me. They loved control. Before we go on, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you've ever been underestimated or treated unfairly by your own family. This story will shake you. I'm Reese. For as long as I can remember, my parents treated my older sister, Haley, like royalty, and me like the family maid. She got the new car at 16. I got hand-me-downs. She got praise for average grades, and I got scolded for getting A's. But I kept quiet, working long shifts at the grocery store, saving every dime, and dreaming of a day I'd finally be free. Then last month, everything changed. I stopped by the gas station after work, sweaty, tired, and angry after another family dinner where Haley bragged about her perfect life. Out of pure boredom, I bought a $5 lottery ticket. When the numbers hit, I couldn't breathe. $620,000. My hands were shaking. It felt like life was finally giving me a chance. But that feeling didn't last long. Because when my parents found out, they didn't congratulate me. My mom's first words were, "Well, Haley deserves half. She's struggling with her mortgage." My dad nodded, saying, "Family shares everything. Reese, be mature about it." I tried to explain that I'd worked for years, that no one helped me, but they didn't care. Haley stood there smirking, already talking about how she'd use her half wisely. I felt my blood boil. I realized they didn't see me as a person, just a resource. That night, I sat in my small apartment, staring at the winning ticket and the text from my dad. "Bring it tomorrow. We'll help you cash it together." The word "together" made me sick, so I made a decision that would change everything. I packed my bags, grabbed the ticket, and walked out of that life for good. But what they didn't know was, I wasn't just disappearing. I was about to make sure they never found me, and when they did, it would already be too late. I changed my name on the mailbox, cut my hair, and bought a cheap plane ticket with the first $2,000 I dared to touch. I didn't vanish to run away. I vanished to build something they couldn't touch. I rented a tiny studio, slept on a couch, and for the first week I cried until my throat hurt. Then I woke up and did the only thing I'd ever known how to do. I worked. I put $50,000 in a safe account under a company name I invented that meant nothing to them. I used another chunk to pay for a short crash course in bookkeeping and a basic website, things my family never thought I could learn. By day, I stocked shelves like always. By night, I taught myself how to run ads, how to negotiate with suppliers, and how to hire someone who actually answered my emails without judging me. Every dollar I spent was a seed. Twist. The first client came from a woman who used to shop at my old grocery store and didn't even recognize me. She needed help with her small online shop and paid me double my usual wage just to get results fast. I stayed quiet about the ticket. I never bragged. I sent polite invoices, collected payments, and put profits back into the business. Within 3 months, I went from folding shirts on the floor to hiring 2 people who trusted me because I showed up. Another twist. Haley called me one night, drunk, fragile, and begging. She said her mortgage was late again and she needed a loan. I listened while she sobbed. Then I hung up. I didn't send money. For the first time, not helping felt like freedom, not guilt. I used that same $3,000 that would have saved her to buy inventory that doubled my small company's revenue. I watched my bank balance grow in a way I had only dreamed about when I was folding boxes in their garage. I learned quickly that silence was my secret weapon. When family members bragged about what they'd done for each other, I smiled and let them talk. Let them keep their tiny victories. I was building an empire of small, steady wins. A rental I fixed up and rented out, a contract with a regional supplier, an online course I quietly launched and sold out. People started leaving 5-star reviews. People started asking for more. But I didn't want just money. I wanted control, real control. So I did something they'd never expect. I bought the company name that matched the charity my parents always praised at dinner. I set up a legal trust with a board they could never guess was mine. I learned how to sign documents that put legal power in my hands without my name attached. Every time I felt small, I learned another rule of the game. Every time they laughed about my lowly job, I paid off another debt, fixed another property, and reinvested. Then the twist that changed everything. A reporter from a local paper featured a story about a young entrepreneur who started with nothing and turned a tiny online shop into a citywide success. They used a photo of my store, taken by a supplier, but the article didn't use my real name. The piece had one sentence I'll never forget. No one knew who started it, only that it came from nowhere, and now everyone needed it. That sentence felt like justice. Word spread. Orders multiplied. My quiet accounts grew into real wealth. I was careful, always 2 steps ahead, always using the trust and shell companies I'd set up. I watched my old family posts from a distance. Haley bragging about a new handbag, my dad posting a selfie on a boat. The anger I used to carry turned into a cold, deliberate patience. I wasn't in a hurry to rub their faces in it. I was building a moment so perfect it would sting. Then, one evening as I checked the trust's account, my phone buzzed with a photo message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of a text my dad had sent Haley that morning. Reese left with the ticket. Hope she learned her lesson. Under that screenshot, someone had typed one short line. "We know where you are." I stared. My heart jumped. I had been careful. Too careful. Someone outside my family had just cracked the first layer. I hit reply, but my fingers trembled. Do I run again, or do I make the move that blows the whole thing wide open? I didn't run. I planned. For weeks, I watched every move they made online, matched it with public records, and quietly pulled strings I'd learned from late-night research. I used the trust to buy properties nobody linked to me, a holding company here, a shell LLC there, and one by one, I bought pieces of the life they thought they owned. I didn't want to humiliate them with cash. I wanted to take back the power they'd always taken from me. Little twist. The first thing I bought was the title to the house I grew up in. The house they kept telling strangers was ours. I put it under a name they'd never connect to Reese, and I paid cash. Then I bought the tiny condo Haley used as proof she was doing fine. It felt like stealing back air. I didn't tell a soul. I watched their Instagram stories as they bragged about wallpapers and new curtains, completely unaware that the papers on those walls now had my signature on them. Next twist. I hired a quiet lawyer who smelled opportunity, not for revenge, but for justice. He helped me set conditions in the trusts and companies that meant only I could decide what happened to those properties if my parents ever tried to take money from me without consent. He wrote contracts that looked normal, but had one sharp clause. Any demand for family sharing would be treated as coercion. If they tried to force me, the contracts gave me the legal right to reclaim assets tied to my name or any future threats. I felt powerful reading that clause for the first time. Then I sent a carefully worded email to my dad's business partner, pretending to be an investor interested in the charity they always boasted about. I asked for a meeting at the same community center, where they held their family values dinners. The partner was flattered and invited me, and in the RSVP I requested a table near the head so I could see the room. I didn't tell them I booked the evening's speaker. I didn't tell them the local reporter I'd quietly paid to come. On the morning of the meeting, Haley texted me, a screenshot of a news alert about some young entrepreneur gaining traction. She wrote, "OMG, Reese, are you behind this? It's crazy." I read it and smiled, but I didn't answer. My hands were steady for the first time in months. I had rehearsed nothing. Everything had to look like chance. When I walked into the community center, I passed the same faces that had mocked me. The neighbor who used to call me lazy, my dad with his fake smile, Haley with her perfume and nails. They barely looked at me. I carried only one small envelope and my head held high. The room smelled like cheap coffee and applause. I sat far back and let them fill the front with their chatter about who deserved what. Then the reporter stood up, cleared her throat, and said she had a breaking story she wanted to share before the main event. My heart beat faster, but no one knew why she picked that night. She read a short paragraph about sudden property transfers tied to anonymous trusts, and how a recent investigation found those trusts were registered to protect victims of coercion from family pressure. The room went quiet. My dad's face changed color. Haley's jaw dropped. People began to whisper. I felt the moment fold into itself like a trap snapping shut. I slid the envelope across the table to the woman next to me, the community center director. And inside was a deed and a short note. This is why your family says I owe half. Before anyone could move, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. We told you we'd find you. Now they know you're the one holding the keys. I looked up at my family across the room. They didn't understand yet that I wasn't there to beg or explain. I was there to decide how the next chapter would end. The whole room turned toward me as if someone had turned a light on. I stood, walked to the front, and put my hand on the podium. Everyone waited to see what the quiet kid who won the lottery would do next. And I opened my mouth. My name is Reese, I said, my voice steady, echoing through the room. You all laughed when I had nothing. You all called me selfish when I tried to survive. But tonight, I just want to thank you, because your greed built my freedom. Gasps rippled through the audience. My parents froze, pale and trembling. The reporter turned her camera toward me. I reached into my folder and held up the property deed, the one for the house my parents were living in. You kept telling people it was yours, I said softly. But legally. It's mine now. Haley's fake smile shattered. You stole it? She stammered. No, I said, looking her dead in the eye. I bought it. With the same money you all tried to take from me? The audience whispered louder. My dad tried to speak, but I didn't let him. You said family shares everything, right? Then I guess this is me, sharing the truth. For a few seconds, the silence felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. Then I dropped enough, even when they told me I'd never be. Now I run the foundation that protects people like me, those used, pressured, or manipulated by their own families. And sometimes when I sign a grant or fund a struggling student, I remember that night, the looks on their faces, the moment I stopped being the lesser child and became the one holding the keys. They taught me greed. I learned power, but in the end, I chose peace over payback, because disappearing wasn't running away. It was my way of finally coming home.